So our monthly theme, we're on week 3, I believe, of our monthly theme, is rolling in the deep. This interesting parallel between ocean dwellers and psychological and spiritual truths, and what we can learn from various experiences that other beingnesses have on this planet that might serve us. We've talked about river dolphins and their experience of community and supporting one another. We talked about the depth of the work of boundaries in our lives and how the depth of the ocean supports that. And today, it's Shark Week. I deeply believe that there's a metaphysical message in literally anything, any TV show, any story, and yes, in Jaws. Absolutely. So we think we know about sharks, right? We saw Jaws? Yeah, probably at a formidable age when we were really little and formed all of our terrors of the depths of the ocean, and we could be out there on our little paddleboard and right? Anybody still, you don't have to raise your hand, but anybody still a little nervous about being in the ocean? Right, about those depths that maybe you aren't comfortable with feeling into? The unknown, we don't like it. We don't like it. So when we think of the shark, I have a great picture of exactly what comes to my mind. Oh. Dangerous, menacing, solitary predator hiding in the dark. And when you least expect it, and when you're in your cutest, tiniest bikini, it will get you. It wants to get you. It's hunting for you, right? That's the feeling tone we get. What if I were to tell you it's a completely imaginary danger? It's imaginary. Sharks aren't imaginary. They're real. They're in the ocean. They live there. They belong there. But the amount of people who are harmed by sharks is shockingly, shockingly low. 1 in 3.7 million people on Earth will be harmed by a shark in any given year. Now, that statistic's a little bit misleading because that includes people in Iowa. And never once growing up in Iowa did I encounter a shark outside of an aquarium. But when we look at the statistics for regular ocean goers, people who live on the coast, people who swim in the ocean regularly, it's still well under 1 in a million people a year will be harmed in any way by a shark. Breathe that in. We are more likely in the big, scary, deep ocean to be harmed by drowning, by riptides, and by jellyfish. We're in a lot of danger from jellyfish. It just wouldn't have made as good of a movie. It's hard to work up a lot of terror about jellyfish. They're so pretty. They're so pretty. So how did we get here? How did we get to this place where humanity as a whole, or certainly Western culture as a whole, have all agreed to be absolutely terrified by something that is in no way threatening us? So afraid that there are nightmares. So afraid that when we're in a pond, hear me, a pond, an enclosed body of water, where there are no sharks. God forbid plant life touch your leg in a pond. I know I'm not alone. The laughter's too loud for me to think that I'm alone. Oh, how did we get here? There are 3 ways that I can think of, and probably a million more. There is old, sketchy science, the bane of my existence. Research that was done, 97 years ago by who knows who, with God knows what level of expertise, where they saw one thing and went, yep, that's what it is. Do you guys know about the lemmings? So there was this, what's the opposite of an urban legend? A rural legend that lemmings were such followers and had such little brains that they would follow each other into danger without stopping. And in the 40s, Disney was making all these really cute little documentaries about nature. You probably saw them in school when your teacher had a headache. And they wanted to do the lemmings. And so they took the lemmings to the cliff, and the story was the lemmings will jump off the cliff after each other. And they herded the lemmings, which was, I'm sure, very natural for the lemmings. A lot of lemming herding going on. But they herded the lemmings to the edge of the cliff, and guess what happened? Nothing. The lemmings looked, and they looked at them, and they were like, what? So they threw a lemming off the cliff to see if the others would. They threw a lemming off the cliff to see if the other lemmings would follow, and they didn't. So they threw a few more to get the footage, and then produced the documentary that said, look at the lemmings leaping over the cliff. Old science, old art. We cannot always trust what we see because of the magic of editing. The magic of sitting into your bias. Well, I know that this is how they behave, and if they won't behave for my fantastic Disney documentary, I will make it look like they did, because we know they do, except it's been studied extensively over the many decades since. And guess what lemmings don't do? They don't jump off cliffs. It was observed one time more than 100 years ago, and the lemmings were fleeing a wildfire. Now, they knew this because it's hard to not notice a wildfire when you're out studying lemmings. But they made this jump to, this is just what lemmings do. It isn't what lemmings do. Old sketchy science, things that you have studied in the past, especially if it's things like pre-90s, go look what's new. There's every chance you read a fact, or if you're me, you saw it on TikTok. I can't always count on my TikToks being accurate because they're made by people. And sometimes they're people that are excellent experts that are being very cautious, and sometimes they're goofballs. And sometimes they're repeating something that they heard 30, 40, 50 years ago, or from someone who learned it 30, 40, 50 years ago. Check into it. Don't just trust the thing you heard is true. We also get it from anecdotes, overgeneralizations. Something someone saw once doesn't mean all the sharks do that, all the lemmings do that, all the people do that. And sometimes, I know it's very shocking to hear this to come out of my mouth in particular, but sometimes people exaggerate for effect. Hard to imagine. But that's what happened with Jaws. A shark, scary. Big attack shark with a grudge. Bigger than any shark that could ever be. Shark robot? Terrifying, terrifying, right? What misunderstandings are you still harboring about the world? What over-exaggeration have you glommed onto? What great story your grandpa told? What thing you saw on TV are you allowing to cause you to make rules about the world that are inaccurate? What danger are you protecting yourself against that is imaginary or extraordinarily unlikely to harm you? It's a good question, isn't it? It's a good question because it causes us to, or it requires us to scroll back in our mind into those things which we have logged as unquestionably true. We don't like to dig into that box. That's the settled box. We figured that out already. But what if you are protecting yourself, limiting yourself, hiding from things that were never truly a danger to you? It's worth examining. So what do we know about sharks? We've got all of these different kinds of sharks. We know that reef sharks are very, very social. They're communal animals. They hunt together. They hang out together. They play. Black tip reef sharks, white tip reef sharks, sand sharks, lemon sharks, hammerheads communally raise their young. You can see the one hammerhead, but then above it you can see that's a school of hammerhead swimming around together. They're very communal. And 2 weeks ago, we talked about how community and interdependence is necessary for a healthy life. The sharks know this. The solitary, dark predator hunting, seeking blood. They can taste the blood in the water. Or they're playing, they're hanging out. See, sharks are supposed to be in the ocean. And while we can go there, I don't know anybody who was born into the ocean and lived there their whole life. By the ocean, sure, but in the ocean, we're the visitors. When we show up and disrupt their environment with our splashing around and, God forbid, bleeding in the water, wouldn't recommend it, they're curious about us. Wouldn't you be? Some creature you've never seen before comes flailing into your house, acting all crazy. They're curious about us. Even the great white sharks, the hunters, the ones we've been taught to fear especially, we were told, science told us that they are completely solitary, they don't form family groups, they hunt in the darkness of the waters. But it turns out, I'm going to hold your hand while I tell you this, great white sharks demonstrate variability and individual behaviors from shark to shark. Some of them are very social. Some of them are very, we might say, introverted. Many of them change their behavior depending on what's going on with their health, with the environment, with the other fish and mammals in the water. Just like people. Just like people. They're individual creatures, and they make choices about where they're going to be and how they're going to act. We've been sold a lie that sharks are successful predators because they hide. Because when you see that seaweed, the shark's going to get you. But the truth is, they don't. They don't hide. Sometimes they do, and I don't know how to break this to you, but sometimes I hide too. There's a reason y'all don't have my address. I go in, behind my little door with my dog, with my poorly trained dog, and my husband, and go in for my quiet time. And sharks do that too. But they also build community and know one another and take care of each other and raise children together, shark pups, they call them. And they hunt together and they share food. Sharks are like everybody else. John Donne said it really beautifully when he said, "No shark is an island." Kind of. He kind of said that. Okay, he said no man is an island, but it fit really well. So here we are, human beings on planet Earth, in the Tatum Sanctuary, on the online campus, quite possibly wondering, why is Reverend Lezli talking about sharks? Good question. I'm glad you asked. When we are looking at what to talk about, one of the things I'm always asking myself is, what does the congregation need? What do the people want? What are hearts calling out for? And one of those things is truly how to be on the planet and feel good about it, to feel anchored in it, to feel connected with the divine, to feel safe. I don't know about you, but I've really been craving that feeling of safety, that everything is okay and that I'm okay in it. And when I think about sharks and the wildness of how very, very wrong we've got it, historically about sharks in our culture, it has caused me to ask, what misunderstandings are in me about me? Where did I buy into the press about me? You know, the press, the normal people press. My mom said, my freshman year roommate in college said, that guy that broke up with me who was wrong, what did he say? What fear did I have inside myself that I let myself build into a rule of I could never, or I'm not safe if, or that's not for me? And then because of the emotion of it, we calcify that into a truth that isn't true. But if we believe it deeply enough, it becomes the truth upon which we build everything else. What lies are my castle built on about myself? What lies have I bought into that are just wrong? They're just wrong. The first step is to catch it. Catch it when you hear it wander through your mind or even come out your mouth. We're pretty good at not putting it out the mouth anymore, right? Because one of us will go, that is not a very science of mind thing to say. Clutching our invisible pearls. But in order for it to be a danger to come out of our mouths, it's in there. It's swimming around in there, right? So the first thing is to just notice it. Just notice it. I wonder why I think that. I wonder where that came from. Can you identify the voice? Sometimes that's easy. You heard it a lot from one person. And sometimes it takes looking a little bit deeper into, where did I pick that up? Is that from the time I panicked during an oral presentation in the 7th grade and threw up, and now I think I can never speak in front of people? You know what happens. Is it that partner I had for a while that really wasn't very good for me said that enough times that now I think it's probably true? Just notice. See if you can find it. And then when we find it, then we have the real challenge. Because one by one, fact by fact, we need to decide, am I going to continue to believe that about myself? Am I going to continue to feed that shark and allow it to decide for me what I can and cannot do? There are whole swaths of young girls growing up right now being told women can't preach. I think that we know here that that's ridiculous. There are boys all over this world being told right now, you're not manly if you cry. Don't ever cry. We know that's not healthy. What are you holding on to that was never yours? Ernest Holmes, the founder of our teaching, wrote in his book, Creative Mind, practically the whole human race is hypnotized because it thinks what somebody else told it to think. Whether literally and deliberately or through sheer repetition, just hearing it in the world. What is in your mind and heart that was never yours? It's easy to hear it from other people, right? You hear a friend say something and you're like, where did you get that? That is just not true. It's harder to hear it in ourselves, but we deserve the effort. When we say do the work, that's the work. We being Reverend Karen and I, when we say, have you done the spiritual work? That's the work. Have you sat in the discomfort of the lie long enough to be able to see that it wasn't ever yours, and chosen to say, nope, I'm going to deprogram myself. I'm leaving the cult of I have to be thin to be effective. I've left that cult. I'm not doing it anymore. Because here's the deal. When you leave the cult, whatever your personal cult is, people are still going to say it. It's not a magic wand to silence the universe. I have tried. I have said, I do not talk about weights. I have said a million different forms of that. And still, everybody else is having their life. So they're talking about their Ozempic journey and their extra workouts and their 10 pounds down and their 10 pounds up. And my job is to let that be their story without judgment. Because I left that club, but that doesn't mean anybody else has to. Everybody else gets to be in whatever club they want. Can I love you in your club? Can I support your choice that isn't mine? Ooh, that's the work. That's the work. What if, just as you are, in this precious now moment, you are exactly as you ought be for the life you have, like the sharks are? I don't know, I don't speak shark, but I don't think they're swimming together and saying, does my fin look big today? Harry the Hammerhead hasn't talked to me. Do you think he doesn't like me anymore? What if radical self-love, radical self-acceptance, radical willingness to be who you really are, what if that is the answer? What if it has always been the answer? It's based in the divine truth of wholeness, which we know from this teaching is the truth of the divine in each one of us, whole, perfect, and complete, exactly as we are. There is no colon and a list of except fors. If it's based in wholeness, the divine truth, then it must be true. And like the great white, you are an individual, an individualization of the greatness of the divine in your form, with your body and your heart and your preferences and your weird obsessions. We know mine is knitting and unicorns. And the way you do relationship and the way you don't do relationship, and this big open opportunity to let go of any limitations that you believed the lie of, to be more yourself, which is truly, truly your only job, to be all the way yourself. In the book, The Body is Not an Apology, which is wonderful, and I deeply encourage anybody who hasn't read it to read it, by Sonia Renee Taylor. She wrote, radical self-love is not an impossibility. It is your inherent sense of self. You came here to this planet as unapologetic, radical love. And anything within or without that tells you different is a lie that I believe you're ready to lay down. I really do. So this is the invitation. Pay attention. Pay attention to the thoughts that wander through your mind. Pay a special attention to the thoughts that wander through your mind that you go, I shouldn't say that out loud. I'm a religious scientist. I believe in science of mind. You know those ones? The ones where you're biting the inside of your lip because you know your friend will turn to you and go, why would you say that? That's not true. Notice those. And see if you can pick one to root out by doing the work of loving yourself enough to know that that was never the truth. And so it is. So let's anchor this in with some Sharky prayer. There is only one infinite heart and life that is so expansive and so divinely perfect that it shows up as humans and sharks and butterscotch pudding. That is so immense that it contains the oceans and has created the vast deserts without depleting itself even a drop. And what we know is that this oneness is all good. Within it is all wholeness and all beauty, all power and strength and abundance, all love, all the time, forever. And what I know absolutely is that this infinite good is present in, through, and as everyone. Everyone. It's true of me. It's true of everyone within the sound of my voice. It's true of every sentient being. It's true of all things that have been created, which is everything. All of it is the divine. There's nothing outside of that pocket. And so each one of us, as we bring that which is ours to consider, to feel about into this prayer, what I know is that Spirit is right there, already active in the healing. There's nothing too big for God, too massive for God, too small for God, too detailed for God. There's nothing that Spirit cannot and is not healing right now. And I'm grateful to know it is the truth of me, it's the truth of all of us, it's the truth of everyone. And so I just release this word to the action of universal law and call it all delightfully good, as we say, and so it is.